So it seems like we've got a good group. I'm just going to give it 2 or 3 more minutes to make sure there aren't any stragglers, and then we'll get going. Okay, that's probably long enough. I'm impatient. So everybody can hear me okay, I assume? Cool. Matt Tucker, did you start the recording going?
Yeah, we should be good to go.
Awesome, thanks. Cool, thanks everybody for showing up. This is the February workflow community meeting. Just real briefly, I'm gonna do an intro, and then if he's up for it, Maciej is gonna talk about the Ragnarson hosting platform. And then I'll review the workflow v2.11 release that we just got out yesterday, talk real quickly about LTS, and then open the floor up for questions is the plan. So I'm Matt Boersma, I'm the workflow team lead. Matt Fisher and Vaughn Deis are also on the call, and we are the core developers, although a lot of people at Deis pitch in on workflow. And then obviously all of you guys, as you'll see when I go over the release notes, are really who is driving the platform at this point. And then just to call her out, Chris Nova is here, and she's starting next week, joining the workflow team. We are pumped. Yay. Do you want to say something briefly, Chris, about how you got here and what you're looking forward to?
So yeah, just start next week. I'll be joining workflow, so I'll be working on the code. You can probably talk more about what I'll be doing than I can. But I'm really excited, and it's nice to meet everyone.
Sweet, yeah, we are very excited to have you join. And generally, you know, this meeting broadened out for a while to include a lot of stuff that we're doing at Deis, and now we've narrowed the focus back down to just workflow, which I think is better. And in that spirit, we're trying to get a demo going every week, or every month, that is. So if you are using workflow successfully or unsuccessfully or whatever, and you would be willing to just tell us a little bit or give a demo next month, reach out to me or send an email to seth@deis.com, and we'll get that scheduled. That'd be great. Or just drop a message in the Deis community Slack channel, anything like that. So next up, Maciej, if you're still up for presenting, that would be great. And thank you so much for providing that repo on how to pronounce your name. I hope I got it mostly correct.
Okay, and just a second, I will share a screen. Okay, I can't.
Okay, this is the one technical issue we might have. Let's see.
Okay, but I still can't make a screen sharing.
Mr. Tucker, does he have permissions? I don't actually have an admin here. There we go, cool.
Yeah, go ahead and try now.
Okay, now, okay. Okay, can you see the presentation? Okay, so I'm Maciej Malecki. I'm a software developer. I code mostly in Ruby. I also have some experience in building platform as a service hostings. Previously, I was a co-owner of Shelly Cloud, which was a platform for Ruby applications. And a few days ago, I wrote a blog post about building a set of tools for managing a hosting platform. That hosting platform uses Deis under the hood, and it was published on blog.ragnarson.com. If you would like to read it, you can go there and check it. And in that presentation, I won't duplicate the information there, so I just shared the screenshot from the applications from the application. So we had a client that has several companies around the world, and he had to put them somewhere. So he wanted to build a private platform as a service. He gave us a few requirements. It had to be vendor free. It had to scale well from the staging stage to up to production with big traffic, and it has to be easy to manage multiple clusters, because he have multiple projects, and each product is isolated, so each team cannot access data of another team. So we started that project in February 2015. The fun fact is that we are a small team, and we built and maintain a stable infrastructure. We had only one outage because our fault, but I will tell you about it later. So in our team, I worked as a software developer, so I had to build tools for our administrators to make administrating easy. So our central point of administration is the admin panel application wrote in Rails. So I will show you a small part of that application. On that screenshot, we have a region view. So we can have multiple regions, and each region have its own data. So if you will see on that screenshot, you can see that there are applications, limits, certificates, databases, instances, and so on. So from Deis, we get applications and certificates, and we also add in our application, the admin panel, we add limits. So each application can have a limit assignment, and admin panel ensures that application have its limit up to date, so developer can't change it. And if a developer will change that limit, admin panel will update it again. We have also databases, so we have built another service for managing databases, and admin panel have the list of all databases, and if developer needs to create new database, he needs to use admin panel API. We have instances from AWS and load balancers and DNS records from Cloudflare. And back to the application, we can recognize if limits are up to date. We can check if monitoring is enabled, if health checks are enabled. We can check if type is assigned, because we are using application configuration to set the type of application and set limits basing on that type. Because, for example, backend application needs to have other limits than front-end application that is written in Ember.js, for example. If we check instances section, we can recognize it. Where file over points, because if we have multiple PostgreSQL server or Redis servers, we can check where the master node is. We can also check if DNS record is up to date, and if it's not, we can update that record. This is the situation when, for example, instance had to be restarted, or AWS made some maintenance on machine. And the more interesting thing is about load balancers, because every region can have multiple load balancers, and those load balancers points to Deis cluster. And this allows us to make upgrades by creating a new Deis cluster. For example, when we had to migrate from version 1 to workflow, we just built a new Deis cluster with workflow. We migrated all applications, and at the end, we just switched the DNS record for ELB to redirect traffic. And then, if everything is okay, we can destroy the old platform, the old Deis cluster, or we can make a hot rollback if something went wrong. This is the admin panel application, but that provides some data for administrator, but it also provides some interface for other tools. So, for example, we have a Deis SSH plugin. It brings an application console feature for developers. So we have some server that contains a special script that connects to Deis cluster and opens application console. And to connect to that script, user needs to use Deis SSH plugin, which connects to admin panel, gets the address of host with that script, and invokes that script. We have also another plugins to manage databases and backups. so user can restore backup from another application to his application. This is the case when someone wants to clone staging application for testing purposes. So he can clone the whole application with database and then put his code and test something. We have full database management using some other service. And the other thing is monitoring system, which uses admin panel to get the list of all endpoints that should be monitored. So we can, for example, disable monitoring for an application. And this is a case when, for staging application, for example, which can break a lot of. Okay, this was some overview on our project of admin panel. And I will tell you some facts about the whole project, the whole platform project. So my biggest challenge was to create databases and backups management, and I was missing that part in Deis itself. So user cannot type, I don't know, Deis database create to create database and to attach that database to his application. And we had to build that system on our own. So I had to design and create some stateless subsystem. And I think it would be great to have that feature in Deis itself. Another thing was my biggest mistake. My biggest mistake was to put health checks on production using Deis version 1, because it worked perfectly on staging, but it failed in our case on production. Probably I didn't make enough tests, but I saw some issues then on Deis repository that other people had some issues too. As far as I know, it works in workflow now, so the issue is fixed. Also, I was missing in the Deis version 1 better users API, and this is improved in workflow. As far as I remember, I created an issue about that to add who am I endpoint to controller, and this will allow us to, for example, make an audit in admin panel for developers action, and also in our case we have different services for developers. For example, log aggregating or that host for application console. So we will be able to use admin panel as a central point of authentication, which will authenticate user against Deis API. So we'll be able to automatically create accounts or in other services. But yeah, we are using Deis version 1 in 2 clusters. On one cluster, and another clusters are already migrated to workflow. So we will have to add that support. Our biggest mistake that wasn't connected with Deis was with BDR PostgreSQL master application. Our client wanted to have a master application due to some, he wanted to spread application around the world, so and spread the traffic. And we used early version of that software on our own risk, and that was the only outage because of platform faults. So, and this is another thing that we didn't had big problems with Deis itself. We've been running in production for a long time, so this is cool. And another thing not connected with Deis is the way we are managing servers. So we are using Chef, and we have one central repository, and this is not good. I mean, the other approach is to use Bergshelf way. So every cookbook should have its own repository, and it makes testing easier, and we could automate our deployment and the whole workflow of managing infrastructure using Chef to be much easier with Bergshelf. Okay, that was the really short overview because I had a small amount of time, but maybe you have some questions or anything.
Yeah, I was interested in one question I had with the administration platform, are you communicating directly with the Deis API itself, or did you ever consider going straight to the database itself? Because how the controller works is that it communicates with the API, and then it stores most of the data was being stored over inside of the Postgres database as well. So I was curious for some of the things like going to the API and seeing if like monitoring was enabled, or going to see if routing was disabled, or if there was health checks set to it. Did you consider to Postgres directly instead of going through the API?
Yeah, so we are using HTTP API, and we are connecting to API directly. We don't use the PostgreSQL database. So no. And for us, it was better on the beginning because we wasn't 100% sure about each component, for example, Deis itself. So building our product in that way allowed us to make a switch to another service in the future if we have to. So, for example, we have Deis, but we could replace it with something else if we had to. And the same thing for other services. So, for example, with database, we have created our own service to manage databases backups. And this service is independent from the admin panel application. So if we would decided to switch from PostgreSQL to something else, we could just replace that service, and the rest of components would remain the same. So it's easier to manage, I think, right now. But yeah, we probably will stick with workflows, so we could make it connect directly to the database.
Yeah, I agree with Remus. This is pretty impressive, especially that you were able to switch from Deis version 1 to version 2. I mean, we tried to keep those compatible at a user level, but I know it's not a trivial thing to move from one to the other.
Yeah, so for us, because we are, at that time, we are in the middle of migrating our clusters to workflow. And for us, the killer feature was that we can just set up a new cluster and switch LB at the end and check if everything is okay, and then destroy the old platform. So yeah.
There's a good question in chat. Do you have any rule of thumb that you discovered for how many VMs, how many nodes are required for one of your apps or a Deis app?
Could you repeat? You asked about how many servers we have now?
Or yeah, roughly, have you figured out, because I would have a wild guess as well, but how many nodes do you find yourself having to spin up in Kubernetes to support a given app?
Okay, for now, I can tell you that we have 3 machines for Deis. So 3 Deis nodes for every cluster, and we have 3 clusters right now. So 9 Deis nodes at all, but the cluster requires only 3 machines right now. So we have the whole setup with Kubernetes, and for applications, 3 nodes are enough for us. I can't remember how big the nodes are. I need to check that. I can't remember.
Is this bare metal, or are these in AWS or?
No, it's AWS right now, but yeah, and it will probably stay like this because our client wants to have AWS.
One more question I had was, or kind of not even a question, it was just more of a general comment on what you were saying on one of the feedbacks was that you want to kind of like a Deis databases add like a Postgres instance to an application. And there is some work currently being done on that. If you know the Kubernetes SIGs or special interest groups, there's one that's called the SIG-svc-catalog. And that is mostly on the discussion of adding basically components that come from another PaaS, which is Cloud Foundry, that basically does service brokers to instantiate new instances off of a Postgres cluster or database tables or that kind of thing. And so there's work currently being done for a component called Steward, which essentially is the idea of creating new Postgres instances or new tables to be sliced off for like a pod or for a deployment object. So there is work being done on there. It's just eventually we'd like to get that done, and then we can hopefully get it in to do like a Deis add-ons feature. So definitely it's something that's on our roadmap. It's something we've thought about, and it is something that we're trying to get to.
Yes, that's great. When we started the project, it was stage, so we didn't have Kubernetes or anything. We had Deis on CoreOS, and yeah, we had to build that software around ourselves. And now I know that there are better solutions for that. So the thing to do better in the future for such projects. Okay, if there are no questions now, you can always send me an email if you have any questions later, or we can talk about details or whatever you would like. You can just use that email, smt116@gmail.com. Thank you for attention.
Thank you so much for presenting. That was really interesting and impressive. And I see Aaron posted some more details about what Matt Fisher was just talking about, the SIG-svc-catalog. And if any of that is even remotely interested to you, it's getting pretty active. So I'm sure he would welcome your participation.
I'm AR Schless on the community channel. If you're interested in joining or just sitting in on some of our community meetings, just ping me.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, Maciej. And again, if you have any idea for presenting how you're using workflow, or just want to, you don't need slides or anything, just let us know and we'll try and set that up for the next month's meeting. Okay, let me go over the v2.11 release that we got done yesterday real quick. Oh, Deis events. Thanks, Tucker. I was just about to post that URL. Those are the release notes for what's in there. Real briefly, kind of a flyover. We fixed a lot of bugs. We moved the base image for all the Docker images over to Ubuntu itself because everything else we've tried doesn't catch up with known CVEs and vulnerabilities very quickly. So apologies if 2.11 takes a few seconds longer to install because the images are slightly larger, but this gives us a better story for security. The default app that shows if on a 404 is now configurable to an installed app. InfluxDB and Grafana can use off-cluster persistent storage now, so they're not ephemeral. Everything I just talked about and the next few things I'm talking about are basically features that you all submitted, not things necessarily that we did, so that's awesome. Probably, depending on where you've installed workflow, you may have run into some timeouts pushing an image to the registry. That turns out to be this really weird thing Matt Fisher figured out with the registry proxy that is now fixed in this release. There were some cases where the build packs didn't actually get evaluated. The heuristic wasn't deterministic the way that we thought it might be, so someone submitted a nice PR that makes that more orderly now. The Azure installation has been simplified and SSL is now working out in Azure Cloud, so you don't have to toggle off the SSL verify flag any longer. And a bunch of other smaller bug fixes is basically the summary of this release. One thing we weren't yet able to fix that unfortunately I'm sure some of you have run into is this builder SSL handshaking error that shows up occasionally. Isn't necessarily catastrophic, although it's certainly annoying, and it really looks like it's a Golang crypto bug and we're still trying to fix it, so that may end up as a patch release if we can figure out a way to fix it. That's what's in workflow v2.11. As you may or may not know, we're still sticking with monthly releases. So the first Thursday of March will be the V212 release. And that's our schedule. So if you have any big PRs you're thinking of submitting, the sooner the better. Any questions about the release?
Yes, I actually have one.
Hey, Josh.
Hi there. On the registry timeout fix, is that the one with the where you add the support for the Docker client timeout fix? Is that the one you're referring to? Is that actually, or is that a different fix?
I can elaborate on that.
Yes.
So it's not for doing like a registry client timeout fix. The fix was specifically before the registry proxy would be running on the host. And we set basically the builder controller to connect to the registry proxy through localhost 5555. However, on some cloud providers, like say on GKE, when you upgraded from 148 to 152, the host didn't have localhost anymore. So we just made it, instead of doing localhost and making you have to do a DNS match, it was just doing over the local loopback address. So it's now pointing to 127.0.0.1 instead of localhost. That was the only fix relevant towards that. So no registry client timeouts, in other words.
Okay. We ran into an issue with the Docker client timeout where we were pushing large instances. We actually had to do we had some issues setting the Docker client timeout because it was not casting to int. But I will probably have a PR open for that here pretty soon.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. We fixed one of the issues. Okay, and then as we mentioned previously, and you're probably sick of hearing about it, but we're almost at the end of the road here. Deis version 1 LTS is done. Essentially, we have a v1.13.4 release that's out there and installable. And as long as no one comes up with any major bugs or PRs for that, that's going to be the final release. And we're going to call it good as of February 13th. But, some people are certainly still using the CoreOS version of what we used to call Deis, what we're now calling Workflow. If you really have something you want to get fixed in the main branch, go ahead and submit a PR, and you've got about another week where we're paying attention to that before we move on. And we'll let people know again on the community channel and on the mailing list and stuff. So hopefully no one is surprised that we're going to stop maintenance on version 1. That's really all I had for presenting. So at this point, you guys have the floor. If anybody has any comments or bugs like Josh mentioned that you really need fixed, or PRs that you're thinking of submitting that you need help with, this would be a great time to bring it up and get some feedback from us. But I will take silence as golden there. So great. Next time will be, this is February 2nd. The next time will actually be March 2nd, the first Thursday of next month. We'll do it the same way, same time, same channel. I'll post a calendar invite and the details in the community channel pretty quick here, also to the mailing list, and we'll have a video of this meeting we were just at in case people weren't able to attend who really wanted to. Remus, you want to spout off for a few minutes? I think we have a little time here.
Yeah, 1 second. Hi guys.
Hey.
So answering to Jay question. So basically, you have to find out yourself how many nodes you need for your apps hard way, especially moving whatever from DS1 or from Fleet as we're moving, and it's not so easy. Just get the set of VMs and start pushing your applications. You see not enough, you're getting more. You can get set of machines which you scale your apps as well. And afterwards, we're using cluster autoscaler. So using horizontal scaling, pod scaling, will kick you extra machines if you need when you get traffic. And the biggest problem as well to get the proper limits, CPU RAM limits as well. But that's a hard way. It's, in general, it's not bad. We're running workflow for staging and development completely 100% and production 40%, whereas it's still on fleet. The biggest problems are Amazon. Workload just flows. Yeah, it's a short one. Jay, do you have more questions or? Yeah, yeah.
What are the Amazon problems specifically? Running it or getting things installed?
Amazon, first of all, we had Docker problem, Docker deadlock. So only was fixed yesterday with CoreOS. If you have 1.11, if you push too many pods to a node, Docker is mostly dead. So CoreOS pushed when you released yesterday with 1.12.6, but we left another bug. So we released today with another one. So that should be fine. But Amazon has problems, different ones. Kubernetes, Amazon have persistent volumes claims bug. It's still from 1.3. So it's not released, it's releasing a claim, but no, it's not releasing the volume. So if your pod moves, can attach, because the volume is attached to a different node. It's disaster. So we try to use a lot of Helm for staging development of our backend, Postgres, different stuff. So we have to move that away for yet because basically it's not working properly. That's the biggest problem to Amazon, basically.
Just got to wait for it to get fixed upstream, I guess, overall.
Yeah, we're trying to use as less as possible persistent volume claims for now. At least in production, we're not using much. Instead of now Deis has the workload has persistent storage for Grafana in FluxDB, which we really like it. So but just a couple PVC is not too bad, but if you have many, it's really bad.
Mm.
So it's my experience for the last couple months.
Okay. Any other questions for Remus or other comments? Cool. All right, let's call it a wrap.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thanks everybody for showing up. We'll see you next month.